Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in as we kick off another week. The financial markets took a beating on Friday, and some analysts are predicting today will be a Black Monday, similar to what we saw in 1987. We have the latest on the Trump-imposed tariffs. Over 1,200 protests across all 50 states took place on Saturday, rallying against President Donald Trump, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, tariffs, federal layoffs, immigration reform, you name it. If it was about Donald Trump, they were protesting. One activist at an anti-Trump hands-off rally proudly proclaimed on Saturday, "I am an immigrant. I am undocumented, unafraid, queer, and unashamed," leading a charge of thousands at her particular protest in New York City. More wasteful spending has been uncovered by DOGE. This time, federal workers tasked with taking care of the men and women in the military spent 87,000 hours and $3.3 million taking care of their own union benefits, and taxpayers, you and me, footed the bill, according to the New York Post.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The financial markets took a beating on Friday. I've had a lot of emails, text messages, some about the panic, in the panic stage, because they looked at their 401k statement or your IRA statement, and I've said, don't do it. don't torment yourself. Remember, over the past few weeks, and I've said this, there's going to be some pain involved, and the tariff wars are showing that right now. My Democrat friends are freaking out because of the drop on Friday, and, get ready. There could be more today. Some are calling today a potential Black Monday. We'll see as the markets react throughout the day, and we'll see where they end up at 4 p.m. this afternoon when they close. Leading the charge on the doom and gloom, CNBC host and market commentator Jim Cramer. He warned that America is in store for another Black Monday market crash similar to the one we saw in 1987, a collapse if President Trump doesn't curtail his tariff plans, he said, is going to happen. Cramer, who noted that the 1987 crash saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average fall by 22.6% in a single day, said the bloodbath could be repeated after the brutal two-day sell-off following the announcement of Trump's sweeping tariffs against nearly 90 countries last week.
If the president doesn't try to reach out and reward these countries and companies that play by the rules in the 1987 scenario, the one where we went down 3 days and then down 22% on Monday, has the most cogency. We will not have to wait out too long, will we? We'll know by Monday. Fortunately, we had an excellent set of employment numbers today. At least it makes it less likely a crash will necessarily lead to a recession. But if President Trump stays intransigent and does nothing to ameliorate the damage that I saw these last 2 days, I'm not going to be constructive here. I will contain my anger, but only because I lived through 87, and in the end, I came out okay. I was in cash for the crash. I know what this feels like.
This all started on Wednesday of last week as President Trump dubbed it Liberation Day when he announced a 10% blanket tariff on all imports to the U.S., with higher levies set to take effect this week, April the 9th, against major exporters like China, the European Union, Japan, Vietnam. China announced retaliatory tariffs almost immediately as a result of Trump's order. In the 2 days following Wednesday's Liberation Day, the Dow plunged 3,910 points, making it the worst two-day loss since the pandemic. The S&P 500 also tumbled by nearly 6%, with the heavy tech NASDAQ seeing a very similar drop. All the financial markets were down at the end of Friday. Total market losses wiped out an estimated $6.6 trillion of value. $6.6 trillion paper value, I might add. It's only real value if you start selling off. We'll see it come back. While Cramer had fully supported President Trump's plans to impose tariffs, the market analyst said that he would no longer be supportive if today's bleak outlook comes to pass. He's going to turn on Trump. The New York Post wrote, while Cramer often promotes his market foresight, he also carries a reputation as a lousy stock picker, with many often betting against his predictions to the point where an inverse Cramer tracker ETF was made in 2023. The Post said the fund, which picked the opposite of Cramer's choices, was created following his ardent advice to abandon Facebook parent company Meta stock after a dismal earnings report, only for shares to later double. So it didn't turn out exactly the way he had suggested. Apollo chief economist Torsten Slocka ultimately warned that a recession may be in store for the U.S. depending on how long the stock market and the tariffs last. He said, if these levels of tariffs stay in place for several months and other countries retaliate, it will cause a recession in the U.S. and the rest of the world. Now, despite the alarms that are being rung by the economists and market analysts, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that the administration will not change course as he downplayed the fears of a looming recession. Bessent appeared on NBC's Meet the Press. He was asked by Kristen Belker if the large drop in the stock market was part of the plan when the Trump administration decided to impose the tariffs.
Let's start with the market reaction to President Trump's announcement of his tariffs. As I just laid out at the top of the program, the markets lost more than $6 trillion in value. Was this disruption always part of the plan, Mr. Secretary?
Look, markets are organic animals, and you never know what the reaction's going to be. One thing that I can tell you as the Treasury Secretary, what I've been very impressed with is the market infrastructure, that we had record volume on Friday, and everything is working very smoothly, so the American people, they can be very take great comfort in that. And in terms of the market reaction, look, we get these short-term market reactions from time to time. The market consistently underestimates Donald Trump. I remember that in 2016, the night President Trump won, the market crashed. And it turned out he was going to be the most pro-business president in over a century, maybe in the history of the country. And we went on to very high after inflation returns for the next 4 years.
I mean, the truth is, none of us know exactly what's going to happen. The stock market on Friday, that was just fear. That's how volatile it can be at times. People reacting emotionally. The fear in investors. Belker then asked Secretary Bessent how long Americans would feel the pain and if we're headed for a recession, with Secretary Bessent assuring Americans there doesn't have to be a recession.
Well, but this was the biggest two-day crash since the pandemic. The president on Saturday urging people, quote, to hang tough, saying it won't be easy. And I guess the big question on people's minds, Mr. Secretary, how difficult is it going to be? And how long are Americans going to have to hang tough?
Well, I reject that. The assumption there doesn't have to be a recession. Who knows how the market is going to react in a day, in a week. What we are looking at is building the long-term economic fundamentals for prosperity that I think the previous administration had put us on a course toward financial calamity.
Again, he's right. The secretary's right. Nobody knows how people are going to react. And we have to all just kind of dig in and understand that, yes, there's going to be some pain, but it's going to be momentary. And it's going to lead us to much bigger and greater things. We're going to have, our economy is going to soar. President Trump is doing exactly what he told us he was going to do and exactly what needs to be done. I mean, as you heard Secretary Bessent, and a little bit later I'm going to share with you some comments from Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who just said, look, folks, we're done being abused by these foreign countries. And he gave some of the numbers. Have you looked at some of the numbers, actually, of the trade deficit that we have with countries like Vietnam, China, of course? It's amazing, the numbers and what other countries have been doing to us. In the end, and again, it's going to take a little while, we're all going to be much better off as these companies start building manufacturing plants and start building products right here in the good old U.S. of A. Hi, Joey Hudson here. This spring there's a renewed energy and focus on efficiencies, and shaking up unhealthy habits don't serve us well. There's so much chatter about making America great again, but it starts in your home with you being the best, healthiest version of yourself. And PhD Weight Loss is doing their part, because for the first time ever, the first 11 callers get 2 free weeks added to your weight loss program. That is huge. PhD's out to prove that you don't need Big Pharma to reach your goals. It just creates dependency, not long-term change. Dr. Ashley Lucas researched weight loss trends for years and discovered a scientifically proven way to retrain your body to burn fat efficiently without hunger, extreme exercise, or dangerous medications. PhD clients watch their belly fat disappear, their energy skyrocket, cholesterol and blood pressure normalize without starving themselves. I lost over 30 pounds and I've never felt better. So call now and mention promo code Joey for my 2 weeks for free with my program. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Before we move on from the tariffs, it appears that some countries have already indicated they're ready to make a deal. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said that about 50 nations have reached out to the U.S. to discuss President Trump's sweeping tariffs. However, he said that nothing will stop the levies from going forward. It's going to happen. The tariffs, just because you come running to us now wanting to make a deal doesn't mean that we're going to stop the tariffs. They're going to go into place. Defending the president's economic plan yesterday, Lutnick said that the calls from foreign officials proved that, quote, these countries know that they've been ripping us off, suggesting there was no room for negotiations and telling CBS Face the Nation they're definitely going to stay in place for days and weeks to come.
So the Treasury Secretary said on another network, we're going to hold the course. It's not the kind of thing you can negotiate away in days or weeks. That makes it sound like the tariffs are staying in place at least for days or weeks. Is that correct, or is the president considering postponing implementation to negotiate?
There is no postponing. They are definitely going to stay in place for days and weeks. That is sort of obvious. The president needs to reset global trade. Everybody has a trade surplus, and we have a trade deficit. We are paying away our future and our lives. The countries of the world are ripping us off, and it's got to end. The president has made it crystal clear. This is the policy we are going to protect. The factories that come build in America, we are going to protect them. They're going to be successful. That's why they're going to build in America, the greatest economy in the earth. All of these companies are going to come and build here.
And that's the whole idea, isn't it? I mean, that's what President Trump has said. Bring your manufacturing facility to the United States, just like we're seeing in the Palmetto State with BMW constantly expanding. You've got these new battery builders. You've got South Carolina has become the Detroit of the South. We have a lot of manufacturing related to automobiles here in South Carolina, and as a result of that, everything that goes into an automobile, there are other manufacturers of that too. There's going to be more, and that's what President Trump has promised us. And it only makes sense. You don't have to be an economist to know that a company is going to sell their product one way or the other. And if that means bringing the manufacturing back to the U.S. to avoid the tariffs so that they can remain competitive, or facing the idea that another company will start the manufacturing of their product, a similar product, and selling it a lot less expensive here in the U.S., they're not going to take that chance. They're going to be pitching their tents across America, manufacturing all of their products employing American workers. Now, while Secretary Lutnick did not specify which countries had already reached out, Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins and White House Economic Advisor Kevin Hassett, both on other news shows over the weekend, reiterated the assertion that during separate appearances on Sunday shows that there are a lot of different companies or countries who have already reached out wanting to make a deal. Now, we've had all these bleak outlooks from economists and market experts. Mr. Lutnick defended the new taxes on imports as a necessity to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. Lutnick also stressed that there was no stopping the tariffs, as you heard, and he talked about Vietnam specifically because evidently Vietnam has called for zero tariffs, a 0-0 tariff agreement. Basically, they won't charge us anything, we won't charge them anything. Vietnamese Deputy Prime Minister Bui Tha Son, that's a mouthful, Bui Tha Son, met with U.S. officials over the weekend to request a delay on the tariffs and open up negotiations, with America standing as Hanoi's biggest export market. Vietnam, which is the sixth largest exporter to the U.S., is set to be walloped with a 46% tariff under Trump's plan, because the communist Southeast Asian nation exports 10 times as much as it buys from America. Trump trade advisor Peter Navarro, he agreed with what Mr. Lutnick said during he was on with Fox News Sunday Morning Futures. But he noted, Navarro noted that Trump has always been willing to listen to what other nations have to say. And as you know, Trump has promoted the tariffs as a negotiation ploy to improve U.S. trade and bring in more revenue. But he's also dropped hints that the steep levies may be permanent, which has sparked the fears of an all-out trade war. We'll see. We'll see. Whatever happens, though, Trump got the world's attention, did he not? And as mentioned, yeah, they're probably anxious to talk now. They're anxious to make a deal. What they need to understand is Trump wrote The Art of the Deal. You remember that book? I think I'm going to go back and reread that book. It's been a long time, many years, since I read that book. You know, I think I actually have a copy of that book signed by Trump that I picked up years ago in a promotion that we were doing at the time. And this was before Trump, he had kind of hinted that he may get involved in politics, but this was long before he even entered the first Republican primary in 2015 when he came down the golden stairway there in Trump Tower. It's probably worth a lot of money now, you think? If it truly is signed, I'm going to have to find that because I think it was signed by Trump. And if it was, it's probably a collector's item. But regardless, how many, you think the sales of that book have increased recently? You think maybe some of these foreign leaders have decided, hey, we need to run out and get a copy of Trump's Art of the Deal and find out what his next step's going to be? Because they understand they're going to have to step up their game in order to compete with him, in order to out-negotiate Trump. It's going to be fun to watch, and we're going to get there, folks. Did you happen to see any of the protests over the weekend? According to reports, over 1,200 protests spanning all 50 states took place on Saturday. Now, what were they protesting? President Donald Trump, his administration, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and Elon Musk, reciprocal tariffs. Tariffs was a big thing on their agenda. Federal layoffs, and immigration reform, of course. They're upset that we're being tough on people who are in our country illegally. Fox News Digital spoke with protesters in New York City about why they were demonstrating, what they had hoped their protesting would accomplish, and if they had been personally affected by the policies of DOGE.
I'm protesting everything that Trump stands for.
I think that our fearless leader, Mr. Trump, has a very negative attitude towards the world, and that he is tariffing us and arresting people like they did in early 1940s in Germany.
I'm a professor, and I'm especially concerned about higher education and cuts to science.
Well, I am protesting the fascist regime, the deconstruction of our constitutional rights and our government.
We've been taken over by a bunch of robber barons who are trying to take away all of our rights, benefits, and liberty.
We want to make sure that the democracy stands and is not eliminated by this fascist regime.
Now, you're just listening to the audio, obviously. I wish you could have seen the video of these people. Some of them were wearing masks. I guess they think we're still in COVID. Wearing masks. And some of them just didn't seem to have a clue of why they were really there. Now, one of the first ones there, who was questioned, her last name was May. She lives in Manhattan. She held a sign that she was reusing from protesting Trump's first term. She said, we've been taken over by a bunch of robber barons who are trying to take away all of our rights, benefits, and liberty. How can anyone argue that Donald Trump is trying to take away their rights, their benefits, and especially their liberty? He promotes our rights. The Trump administration, we have never had anyone promote our liberties and our rights, our freedom of speech like Donald Trump. Now, Ms. May was joined by thousands of others. This was in New York City's Bryant Park. Beautiful park. I've been there many times. And they just took over the park. They carried signs which opposed budget cuts and project. They're still complaining about Project 2025. They support Planned Parenthood, of course. You could see signs supporting abortions. They were chanting critiques against the Trump administration. Just in general. They just don't like Donald Trump. One resident from Ridgewood, Queens, her name was Mary, held a sign that stated, "Stop Republican chaos." As if we haven't had chaos over the past 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. She said, "I'm outraged. The Republicans in Congress are enabling Trump to do many, many things. Everything he's doing is wrong, and they know it, and they're enabling it." She said the Republicans must go. They're causing chaos. People have to vote blue for every office, always. Lady, look, you had your chance in November. You failed miserably. So you got to sit this one out for 4 years. This is just the beginning. This has just been 2 months. When asked what she hoped the protest would accomplish, Marty from Yonkers, who considers herself to be a proud higher education diversicrat, said she wanted people to know that everyone is ticked off. Well, not everyone is there, Marty from Yonkers. I'm pretty happy. I know a lot of other people who are pretty happy. She told Fox News, this isn't just you sitting at home and your jammies being ticked off. A lot of people are, and it goes back to you don't agonize, you organize. So, yeah, you go out, you make some signs, and you walk around Bryant Park in New York City chanting. That's going to get a lot accomplished there, Marty from Yonkers. You remember last weekend, the protests were over Tesla. There were about 200 Tesla takedown protests. They were all organized around the U.S. to rally against Elon Musk and DOGE. Several protesters, including a guy named who identified himself as Josh from Queens, said that they hadn't really personally been affected by DOGE budget cuts, but said that everyone knew someone who had, especially in education and science. Fox News, he told Fox News, "I have a lot of friends who are teachers and the cuts from the Department of Education are pretty scary. I work directly with special needs students, and I'm worried that some of that funding might be cut as well." All right, listen up, folks. Listen, whatever your name is, Josh from Queens. Pay attention, because Donald Trump and Secretary of Education McMahon have been very clear. Special needs students will get the education they need and deserve. They're not going to be cut. In fact, none of those benefits are going to be cut. The money is just going to be reallocated to state government and local school boards who can do the job better than a federal bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. And that's just it. People don't listen. All they see is the headlines written in the New York Times and over on CNN, Department of Education going to be closed, going to be cut. Well, yes, it probably is going to be. I hope it is. But it doesn't mean that the programs are going away. The bulk of the money is going to be there. We're just going to cut out all the administrative costs and get it back to the people who can use it a lot more efficiently than the federal government. Sadly, because of, and there has been some chaos. I mean, look, I get that. The chaos has been created by the mainstream media and the left. I mean, you look on social media, I get angry at times seeing some of my friends who I know are smarter than they appear just posting idiotic things about Trump and the tariffs and the economy. Trump has seen, because of this, his poll numbers have slipped some in recent weeks. Although you got to compare that, and that was big headlines last week when, and I forget which major polling organization it was, but Trump's, their big headline was Trump's lowest numbers since being back in the Oval Office. Well, that was their poll. There are a lot of polls showing him with record approval ratings as well. But even though some of those lower numbers, they're still better than what he had in his first presidency. His administration has moved at a breakneck pace since January. I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen an administration get things done as quickly as Donald Trump has in these just over 2 months now. Trump's team has remained confident that his various moves on the issues, from trade to immigration to government downsizing, that it's going to benefit our nation long term. Yes, it may look a little scary short term. Friday's stock market was a little scary. I'm a little apprehensive of what we're going to see today just because people are going to continue to overreact, I'm afraid. But still, you got to make, if you're going to make changes that are going to affect and improve our government long term, you got to do some of this stuff. And yes, people are going to lose their jobs. You can't downsize this. You can't decrease the size of the federal government and leave everybody in place. There's agencies that are going to need to go away, like the Department of Education. Doesn't mean we're going to stop educating students. We're just going to do it differently. We're going to do it more effectively. One of the people that Fox News interviewed, Wendy, a professor living in New Jersey, said that she was particularly concerned about the cuts to higher education and science. Now, what cuts are you talking about, lady? Tell me. Are you talking about Columbia University potentially losing some of their money because of DEI? Yeah, they may. Or they can get in line and stop the nonsense, and their federal funds won't be in jeopardy. She said, I know scientists who have had grants cut, significant grant cuts. Yeah, maybe some of those scientists who have who've been studying the mating habits of mice that will do nothing for us at all. Is that some of the scientists you're talking about? These people, they just overreact. On DOGE's Agency Efficiency Leaderboard, which details which government agencies have saved most from the canceled contracts and other methods in order to cut costs, the Department of Education ranks in second place. The National Institutes of Health ranks in 13th place as of March 30th. I haven't looked. I don't have the latest numbers. According to DOGE, on its site, it saved Americans $140 billion. That's not quite $900 per taxpayer, and it's growing every single day. One unnamed mask protester holding a sign which had the specific symbol for resistor said, I haven't been affected, but I used to work at NIH, and a lot of my colleagues have been fired as a result, so scientific research is being halted because of DOGE. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. I was talking with you a minute ago about all these protests all around the country. They were called Hands Off. It's a grassroots movement supported by a group of civil rights groups, labor unions, and other advocacy-type organizations. I imagine there's probably some Soros money in there, and some of these other liberal billionaires putting money in there. It's on their website. It says it's a nationwide mobilization to stop the most brazen power grab in modern history. The protest took place this past weekend. They're being regarded as the largest nationwide display of opposition since Trump began his second term and of course, implemented the tariffs last week. Well, one of the activist leaders who describes herself as a anti-Trump hands-off rally organizer, she declared Saturday in front of a large group of people on the national media, and a video clip of this has gone viral, so it's been seen by millions of people. You may have seen it. She says, "I am an immigrant. I am undocumented." She's saying that right there in wide open space. "I'm unafraid, I'm queer, and I'm unashamed," leading jeering critics to call for her to be deported. Now, she's broadcasting to the world that I'm here, I'm leading this anti-Trump effort, and I'm undocumented. Now, why is ICE not there picking her up right now? Here she is.
My name is Gracia Martinez Rosas. I am an immigrant. I am undocumented, unafraid, queer, and unashamed. I lead the organization, the most beautiful organization called United We Dream Action. We are the nation's largest network of immigrant young people fighting for queer rights, immigrant rights, and the rights of everyday working class people.
Wow. Now, she's up there proclaiming her undocumentation and all the other things, and yet she doesn't appear to be unafraid, as she said. And she was allowed to do it. But she's critical of our country and claims that our freedom of speech is being taken away. She doesn't have any rights if she's here illegally. But yet she's there proclaiming her beliefs. A short clip of her speech, again, has gone viral on social media. It's received about 1 million views on various posts on X. And, of course, it sparked a backlash from many users who believe that she should be arrested and deported, that Tom Holman should show up on her front step and make an example out of her. One user saying, "Deport her now." Another saying, "Lock her up." And they have a point, don't they? Several people sought to notify Tom Holman personally, to send him a note on X, while others suggested that Rose's public display would make her a target by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Well, I hope so. What do you think? Should ICE pay her a visit? Should Tom Holman send some of his agents out there and question her? One X user wrote, "The only thing she didn't tell ICE is her home address. I'm confident they can look that up." I think so, too. Another commenter said, "I guess we'll see her arrested later this week. Thanks for coming forward to let ICE know where you are." Rosas is originally from Hidalgo, Mexico, according to the New York Post, and came to the U.S. as a child growing up in the Dallas, Texas area. This is according to her bio on the University of Illinois Chicago website. She's the executive director of the United We Dream, which is a youth immigrant network made up of over 400,000 members. She's very outspoken and out front. Rose's statements were made at the rally attended by tens of thousands in the nation's capital, in which just one of over 1,000 protests held at locations around the country on Saturday, including at Columbia University and Bryant Park in New York, and locals in Los Angeles and Philadelphia, and here in the upstate as well. There was one in Greenville. Did you see it? Have you seen some of the people out on the street? Democrats and left-wing groups came out in force, according to the media. Now, there were a lot of people there. Of course, opposing DOGE and this sweeping new Liberation Day tariffs that they're all upset about. Representative Jamie Raskin, the Democrat from Maryland, was one of the speakers at the D.C. demonstration. He said people have the right to call the president deranged for crashing our economy, destroying $6 trillion of wealth, and turning my 401k into a 201k. Yeah, nice play on words there, Mr. Raskin. Wow. Meanwhile, federal workers, this is according to another New York Post discovery, federal workers who were tasked with taking care of the men and women in military spent 87,000 hours and $3.3 million taking care of their own union benefits. And taxpayers footed the bill. You and I paid for this. During the fiscal years of 2023, 2024, union staffers at the Defense Health Agency, known as DHA, which oversees the TRICARE health benefits for U.S. troops, charged the federal government for the time they spent working on contract negotiations, trying to get fringe benefits and other union duties, according to a report obtained by Senator Joni Ernst, Iowa's office. Of the $3.3 million, $3.3 million, let me be sure and clarify that, was on union time. About $190,000 was spent on negotiating a labor contract for workers at the agency since April of 2023. DHA said when asked about the large expense, quote, during this period, our agency was undergoing a significant transition aimed at stabilizing and enhancing our labor relations process. At the time, only about 36% of seats at the agency's headquarters were occupied, according to the findings, because they were out working from home. DHA's multi-million expenses on taxpayer-funded union time is the largest figure that Senator Ernst's office has released during its investigation of the use of taxpayer resources on union-related expenses across federal agencies. Our tax dollars should not be used for these union workers to negotiate their deals. Period. End of sentence. If federal employees want to be a member of a union and they don't feel like the union contract is where it should be, they can negotiate that on their own time. They do not need to be doing this when they should be processing Social Security checks or helping, in this case, helping process veterans' benefits. Senator Ernst, who is an Army veteran herself and leader of the DOGE, Senate DOGE caucus, she's been looking in, taking a personal interest in probing federal agency use of taxpayer-funded union time and previously championed legislation that would require federal workers to reimburse the government for time and resources spent on union activities. Look, they shouldn't be allowed to do it. Then you don't have to worry about reimbursement. According to Ernst, this report on the Defense Health Agency highlights everything that's wrong with the federal workforce. Taxpayers were subsidizing more than $3 million of union activities while the D.C. headquarters sat on just 36% occupancy. Bureaucrats should serve the American people, not themselves. Other agencies had significantly lower spending on taxpayer-funded union time. NASA spent about $400,000 last year, while the Nuclear Regulatory Commission spent about $420,000 in 2024. Again, it should be zero. They should not be spending their time that we're paying them to do a job negotiating their union contract, period. You agree? Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Send me a quick text. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-56 39. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.